Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm Roger Royce. It's 8 a.m. and we're going to kick off the 2020 California Statewide Candidates Forum. Our very first speaker this morning is Jeff Gorman, who's running for Congress, I believe, over in Monterey. Jeff, what district is that?
Yeah, it's California District 20, the Central Coast around Monterey Bay. So
Okay,
Santa
great.
Cruz, Salinas, Watsonville, Monterey Peninsula.
Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about your candidacy?
Sure. Yeah, this area is a beautiful area, geographically, very environmentally conscious people are attracted here from all over the world, and many decide to live here. It's expensive. It attracts some very famous people. Clint Eastwood is a mayor of one of our small towns, Carmel. Pebble Beach is quite well known. City of Monterey is known for Cannery Row. And Salinas is known for John Steinbeck. So that's the district in a nutshell. What's happened here recently is that it's become very one-sided and very partisan. And I think that's stifling debate. So my campaign and my candidacy are determined to stir things up and get people talking about what does it take to create entrepreneurship and to nurture sort of an American style of living here on the Central Coast.
Okay. So Jeff, I think one of the big issues that's on everybody's mind, certainly there's a lot of them, and you're running for federal office. This is the future of California, so I think I'll focus on some federal issues that affect us a lot out here. I guess number one, your area has been pretty hard hit by forest fires this year. Is there a federal solution to that? Is that something that Congress can step in and help with? And what would you do?
There certainly are issues where the federal government could help, but ultimately actually fighting forest fires is an extremely local matter. And the fire roads, that's an intimate knowledge thing that people need to have local knowledge to do that really well. Where I think the federal government can help is, of course, with disaster assistance, which in my opinion, the state of California is hooked on that and very, very dependent on bailouts from the federal government, which I think is unhealthy. It needs to be looked at very closely across the board. With regard to fires, I live near 3 fires during September, I guess it was. And literally they're all around us and many people got evacuated. All of those fires started small and they call it forest fire fighting. My experience with fighting is taking the initiative is extremely important. So if you can get in there and land a knockout punch, the fight is over before it began. If you think about what the CIA or the FBI do, their jobs are to protect us. And if they take the initiative, they can actually keep us from even knowing we were threatened. My thought for the federal government is that they can surge people to fight on the ground, but one thing that would be really fantastic is a use of the jet planes that have the fire retardant or even just water, but have many of those planes centrally located in the middle of the country. They can go over 500 miles an hour. They can get from Colorado to California in about 2 hours, and they can get from Colorado to the Canadian border in 2 hours as well, and have them stationed as a firefighting team ready to go so that you're hitting a small fire with huge potential very hard, very early before the smoke layers build up and block visibility, which is the biggest inhibitor to using air power. Right now, California spends 97% of its forest fire fighting capability money on ground crews and only 3% on air power. And in these terrains around here, that's ridiculous. So that would be one area where I think the federal government could help, and it would be fair across states. It wouldn't be just bailing out California and favoring California.
Yeah, you said something really interesting there about how California has gotten a little bit hooked on bailout money. Currently there's proposals in Congress for new stimulus. And it seems like California might need it. The state's been hit pretty hard by the shutdowns. What's your view on that?
Well, from the beginning, I would say I was on the take more risk side of the shutdown. I thought once the case number went above a few dozen cases sprinkled across the country to thousands of cases and a tragedy in very, very Democrat-run New York City, I thought the United States needs to brace for a risk-managed approach and these massive shutdowns, China style, Soviet style, are not going to work. I would say it's a balance. I understand it's a serious problem, but my thought on it is that Sweden actually did a much better job than California in managing this crisis. I know there's some other opinions out there, but when you look at the trends and the curves of caseloads, they have something going for them where their cases aren't spiking right now, is my understanding. And honestly, I'm not a doctor. I'm a financial advisor. I've got clients that are doctors. They got in my ear early. I actually have a few different perspectives coming in. But the bigger question about why does California seem so reliant on federal stimulus money? We have expanded our budget tremendously since the years of Pete Wilson. And we have our state has their fingers into all sorts of different issues, and it doesn't seem to be working. And I think we're squandering what money we do have. We have a huge tax base, 5th largest economy in the world, some of the wealthiest people in the world, and yet we can't manage problems. I see problems all around us getting worse instead of better.
Okay. And our attendees, we have a Q&A box. If anybody wants to shoot me a question, we'll take a look at it. But I think this sort of back and forth conversation is working well. So let me just ask, as a financial advisor, I'm going to kind of focus on my favorite topic, taxes. And I'm sure you watched the debate last week and you saw the two candidates talk about, the two vice presidential candidates talk about their tax plans, which seem to be very different, very different. Where do you think the country should go with tax policy going forward?
Well, you know, I grew up in the 70s with high taxes and sort of a defeatist attitude in the United States. And I watched Reagan come in. I watched Art Laffer come around and talk about how taxes can be stifling and that we could really unleash economic potential. At that time, the fight was against inflation, and the supply curve, demand curve question was, how do you get supply up and prices down? That's not how the lines work. And his idea was less regulation and lower taxes. And Reagan took that, wasn't able to push it through on the cutting the federal budget side, but he was able to deregulate substantially. And I saw the economy do really well when I was a young adult. I was impressed by that. And we went from thinking we were losing the Cold War to the Soviet Union in the 70s, which was causing a lot of budget problems, to definitely winning the Cold War, which I've begun calling World War III. For my generation, there were a lot of people that were in hot zones fighting. But anyway, World War III came to an end, and we got soft here in the United States. We need to approach this current situation. I think we're in a very intense conflict or competition with China. And China has been playing a game with an objective that is beneath them and trying to undermine us. And we need to realize that and fight back very aggressively. So I'm extremely pleased in the shift of thinking how we're approaching China. I don't want to see the federal government stripped or bankrupted. So we need to really have a conversation. What is the federal government's job? In my view, it is national defense, maintain a level playing field for the economy so that we have the industrial might to compete on the international stage with any threat. And I think we can do it, but we need to get out of this nitpicking infighting mode and into serious about what's going on internationally.
Yeah, so, you know, we've only got a minute or two left, so I want to make sure that we get your issues across. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the public here? Any other hot button issue for especially your district?
Great. This will come back to your question about taxes. My biggest issue is national security. The main reason to have the federal government is national security. But what happens if we have the economic base that I envision and that I think we're working towards? Before COVID, we were doing a good job getting to this. Then people can afford their own health care. They can afford to educate their own children. And that's the American way. Take care of yourself, be productive, and get what you want out of this life. And that's where I want to see this whole thing go. It's very entrepreneurial, very opened up in the economy, a lot of potential. Like, you know, AB 5 was the biggest thing that I could see a state doing stupidly. And my opponent took that to the national debate. I'm like, no, don't do that. Why would we do that? But yeah, so My issues really are about economics, and I think the rest takes care of itself. People should be left to their own devices. So thank you very much, Mr. Royce.
Okay, last question. How do people find you if they want to get involved in your campaign?
Very good. I have a website, jeffgormanforcongress.com, or just Jeff for Congress, spelled out FOR.com will get you there. And you can call my phone. It's 831-375-2227. Be very pleased to speak with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff Gorman for Congress.
Thank you.